Hallo liebe Zuschauer, willkommen bei NIHRFF TV. Ich möchte sehr herzlich zu unserer Gesprächsrunde einladen. Heute bei uns zu Gast ist Damien Ounouri. Welcome, it's very nice to have you here.
Thank you.
This is your second time in Nuremberg, I believe. Do you feel some sort of homey feelings? Do you recognize the city? Is it as you remember? Has anything changed? What are your impressions of the festival so far?
Yeah, it's a little bit like home, I think, because I came 4 years ago for a feature documentary called Fidai.
Yes.
And yes, I was very happy to come back again because we shared very great moments with the team 4 years ago with Andrea and all the crew. Mm-hmm. So yes, I'm not going to all the film festivals with a film, but Nuremberg is one of my favorites. I like the human aspect, and so yes, I'm very happy to arrive again, and it seemed the same.
What made you go in a fictional direction? You're used to making documentaries up until now. What made you change to go towards a shift in the fictional direction for this story specifically?
Yeah, you say the answer. It's the story you decide if you do a fiction film or a documentary. I think my first love is fiction film, but even in documentary I was searching a kind of to work with the border between documentary and fiction film.
So there was always a story in mind that you wanted to tell.
Yeah, and Fidai was a documentary because I have the luck to have my main character alive. My uncle was alive, so I have to do the film with him. But his story could be adapted in fiction, and even in this film, there are some parts of fiction with reacting or reenactments.
Reenactments, yeah.
Yeah, and an aesthetic more in fiction film. At this time we shot with the Alexa camera, but it was the first model, so it was very big and nobody was used it in documentary. But clearly I'm crazy about fiction film, so even in a fiction film I put inside some parts of documentary. I mean, in certain scenes the way of directing is more like documentary. We have kind of dialogues, I have my actors, but I put them in the middle of a documentary scene. You can see two big examples in the film. The final of the film is around a scene around the fountain, and there is lots of real people, and the real people speak with and play with the camera. Or there is a panic scene on the beach with the cops and the people of the beach, and I put the actor in the middle. I just explain the global situation, and after what he does, he just reacts of the people coming in front of him.
So we really wanted to capture a natural reaction from whatever's happening in that specific scene. Did the actors by any chance, like Adila Ben Dimarad for example, did they improvise some lines, or was it all strictly scripted?
We are not very rigid. We are not so very narrow-minded with the script. The lead actress, Adila Ben Dimarad, co-wrote the script with me. So even on the set we are rewriting again and again, because you can planify everything before the shooting. When you put in the concrete world, it doesn't work. So you have not to. I think we have to be open-minded and change some things when it doesn't work. Or so sometimes we cut dialogues. It's normal, I think. But sometimes we change very big aspect of the script.
What was that, for example? What was something that was mentioned in the original script but had to go through that change? And what made you actually make that choice?
Yeah, I won't spoil too much the film, but for example in the film there is a sea creature, a monster.
Yes.
1 week before the shooting, normally she would have some tentacule.
Tentacles, yes?
Yeah, because Kindil in Arabic means jellyfish.
Yeah.
So
So there is no real translation for these, this mythological figure of Medusa, right?
a little bit, yes. And but the tentacle was too kitsch. It's like Ed Wood's film, so
Yeah.
we completely changed that aspect. We just use our normal body, shave our sourcil,
Eyebrows, yeah.
do a makeup, and after she screams, and when she screams, there's a big wave of electricity. So we changed that 1 week ago. Another example is you will see there is a big violent scene
Yes.
where she's surrounded by young men and they start to violate her.
Yes.
And at a point, the shooting was during 2 days. At the end of the first day, we were blocked because we finished the dialogue.
Yeah.
But after I have a kind of choreography of violence, but it was not fine to follow on this direction because the film would become very violent
Yeah.
and obscene with blood and big hits on the woman. And it's not my cinema to show. I prefer the suggestion.
Yes.
So, and at this moment, my director's assistant told me that tomorrow, be careful because you should finish today, because tomorrow it will be big storm.
Oh, so the weather wasn't on your side either.
Yeah, not at all. And but at this moment, the sun was quite done.
We're very long, okay.
And finally, I found the idea to put her head underwater. And when she go outside the water, it's raining, and the guys are in circle or surrounding her, and they don't speak, and they just block her.
Yes.
And when she watch to the beach to call help, there is nobody. Finally, we went. Before the script in the fantasy aspect at this moment. And the decision was taken at 2 a.m. in the night, the day before the shooting. Wow. And finally, it was I think the good solution. So you have to, yes, to be open-minded to the element, and if you
to have that shift between reality and going over to fiction.
Yeah.
So that transition actually happened during the shooting process.
Yes, but it's quite the same in documentary. I mean, if you know very well your topic, you feel your film, your story. Yeah. You can work a lot before the shooting, so you can determine a very rigid and strong dispositif, cinematographic dispositif, well prepared.
What perspectives to use and what shots you're gonna combine? Okay.
You are after free to improvise in this field.
Within that range that you set for yourself. So within this plan, I was wondering because this scene is very, very powerful, and the stuff that is happening. These men, in a sense, do really unspeakable things. What made you really dive into this subject, especially because you're a male filmmaker, and I imagine there are a lot of female filmmakers who want to bring this to attention. This is something that has been going on since the dawn of mankind and is sadly still relevant today. What made you go towards that sort of subject?
Because I'm co-writing with a woman, and I'm very interested in to start with a woman character to depict the world, the environment, the family around her, the men in the family, the people in the neighborhood and in the country. I think it's the central point of a society, especially in Algeria. Apparently it's men are ruling the society outside, but finally I think it's the contrary. It's women from the house and who do the education, who carry babies, who can transmit a lot of education, culture, and
so they're not just stuck to their roles inside the family, but they have a life of their own, or something that they can bring to society outside of just the roles that are kind of put there by a patriarchal society.
And two, because I was sensitive of the women topic. I mean, women are, a part of a kind of minority in the world. So, not in number, but in their status.
Do you mean?
You know, like black people or homosexual, and women is a minority too. Because men
in a way, yes,
appearance
because
rule the
they're
world.
not given the same rights or
And
the same freedom.
at this time, I was very angry. We were very angry about lots of violence against women.
Yes.
Adila was very shocked by a story which happened in Afghanistan with a woman called Farhunda, who was killed by dozens of men for a stupid reason. And there was a video on internet, and it was very violent. At the same time, in Algeria, we have a problem of a student with a skirt, wearing just a skirt, and the university blocked her to enter because of a skirt too short. In France, you have the story of the skirt too long. After, there was the story of the burkini.
Yes.
The top model are anorexic. It's very sad to see when the world is for me, it's very in trouble. All the country have economic and social problems, and at the end, the politics and the media put the fault on women or other minorities.
And not blame the ones who are actually responsible for these sort of things. So it is mostly the female audience or the women in general who suffer from these problems, but they are also blamed for them at the same time. So in a way, would you say that really inspired you to tell this story together?
We were very angry. It's a kind of emergency film. Because we were working on a fiction film together. We brought 2 scripts, and waiting the fundings, this happens. So there was an emergency to express these feelings, and that's why we jump in this topic and in this film. Between the idea and the shootings, there was just 3 months. And finally, the story of the film, we make the film between the idea and the premiere in 1 year. So it's very short for a film.
Very short production process that you went through. So anything else you had in the pipeline had to wait, so to say, because this was such an urgent matter that you wanted to express. And I think from the movie itself, you can really feel that urgency to tell the story of Nfissa. I was wondering how the Medusa as a mythological figure came to play. What made you think to use that sort of symbolic meaning, or tell a story of freedom, but also of anger and revenge?
Yes, in Algeria we have lots of Roman reigns. I mean, I think it's after Italy, the second country in the world who have reigns like that. So you can have reigns in Algeria, and at the same time a young man who selling some shoes and plastics and garbage, and so it's our environment. And it's the title of the film is quite Medusa, but it's not really the Medusa myth. But it's clear that we are, especially the lead actress Adila, is very influenced by the antiquity books and tragedies. Medusa is one of them. But when you have a human being who is in front of a very strong and catastrophic situation, and the fantasy can occur.
Yes.
It was a way not to focus only on Algeria. I mean, in the film, it's not the country is not Algeria, it's Caesarea. Caesarea. It's the Roman name of the city where we shot.
So that environment just really came into play, so I guess this whole theme just seemed natural to you.
Yeah, and because we want to push the metaphorism of the violence against women as an antique violence against women.
As an ancient violence that always existed over this time and is still present.
For 1,000 years, there always be violence against women. So we wanted to go further the simple fact of reality. Yes. That's why in the film there is no religion, for example, to not say that it's the one kind of religion is guilty for the violence. No, it's a human being
It's a very basic level of human behavior, regardless of culture or religion or anything else.
It's like the witch in Middle Age or etc.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anything that, when filmmakers present their movies, I think at least, that they do that in a way that they want to ask questions and not provide answers necessarily. They want to bring something to attention or make people think about these things. Did you feel going out and making this movie that there was some feedback that you got that gave you an answer that you looked for, or is it still out there? Or are questions still unanswered in a way that you want to leave them that way?
Yes, you're right. We just put some answers with the film. If not, it's propaganda. So, but for the moment, there is no answer of this topic. The violence against women, we have to fight every day to change that.
Yes.
So it's just a way to tell again that this phenomenon is
still happening. Yes.
Still happening. It's alive, and we have to fight against it.
So that would be the core message of the film. Would you say that this is not just a problem that needs to be talked about, but also fought in a way that we don't want this to happen to anyone
and
else.
Act. And it's not a feminist film, it's more a humanist film. I mean, in the film, the character of the husband is very nice, because in some Q&A, for example, 3 days ago I showed the film in Algeria, and some men were very angry with the film.
Oh, because
they say you show us as
characters
just violent people, and we men, we are suffering too. And yes, everybody suffers, but some people have more weapons to protect themselves of that. And but the solution is not won't occur with women. It's men and women have to find a solution together.
Together, yes. So it's not just a separate female problem, it's people coming together, and not all male figures that are represented in your movie are essentially evil. Just some of them are. Yeah.
It's like reality, you have good, evil, and both at the same time.
You spoke of different projects that you wanted to pursue, but then this just kind of presented itself as something that was more urgent, so you wanted to do Kindil instead. I was wondering what those other projects are and what are your hopes for the future?
Well, we are currently working on the funding of a feature film called The Last Queen. It's a story in Algiers in the 16th century when the Barbarossa brothers, the famous pirates, came to Algiers and liberated the city.
So it's a historical film?
It's historical, but it's the story, and there is a part of legend, because the story of the last queen is quite a legend, and because women histories are not in the books, or you have some exception, but women stories are forgotten, never conté, tells.
Never told about, or the story is just...
So the challenge is to find a way to represent a woman at this time, not like in Hollywood when they show a queen, a woman queen, she do like men, she act like men.
Yeah, she doesn't use her female attributes. in a way
Yes,
that
true.
they kind of
But just
stereotype her in a way that if
but
if
simply
they use women in power, they have to give her things that a man would do instead of like using her power as a woman and the things that you can do as a woman.
Yeah, it's true on some points. For example, it's you see films like Agora, or in the antique time, the women are very sexy in the street,
Yes.
but really they were very covered. In Roma, in Greece, they can't enter a parliament to say, no, I am not agree with your decision. In the film there is always that, and it's not possible. The politicals and even the philosopher, it was just for men. And in the 16th century, a woman, if you go, a woman can go outside in the street, but not only in Nigeria, in London too. If you read Virginia Woolf, you, at a moment in a room 1 she imagined if she had been Shakespeare's sister.
Yes.
But if she has been Shakespeare's sister, she just can't go outside in a little town. She can't go to the town further and to London, and she will never become Shakespeare. So it's we are working on this angle to tell a story with
Through a female
perspective. What can we find to make an influence on the city, to go outside? The context helps us because it's a context of mess, because Barbarossa brother we killed the Algerian queen and took the power, so it was a mess, and there is some way to go outside and to have an influence. But it's a little bit like that. And there is an historical issue about retake our history and our imagination. Because in Algeria, for the majority, there is nothing before French colonization. And in the films, in the arts, except 2 books, you have just the topic is only the war for independence. So really the 50 last years. And
it's very selective in what is actually told by history.
So we don't know
There's no full
our
picture.
story.
Yes.
And in Europe too, because nobody knows that Algiers was a big capital at this time in the Mediterranean, and that Algiers was a real melting pot. You have people from Germany, from Netherlands, from Eastern Europe, and the pirates have all the origins, and they stay in Algeria. They had some babies, so it's the kind of the origin of the country, of the recent country, and origin of the people. So it's important to us to say, no, before French colonization there was a big history in this country, and yes, that's it.
No, it sounds very interesting, especially to really enlighten that female perspective and try to really set that out there and bring history to life that is yet undiscovered for a lot of people. Thanks so much, Damien.
Thank you.
It was really interesting.
Thank you very much.
I hope you'll have a nice day here and fun at the festival.
For sure.
Meine Damen und Herren, wir sind am Ende des Interviews. Es hat mich sehr gefreut, dass Herr Ounouri hier war und seinen Film präsentiert hat. Ich hoffe, es hat Ihnen gefallen. Bleiben Sie bei uns und wir freuen uns, Sie nochmal zu sehen.